everyone, I'm Jade the Willow. How are you doing today? We are going to build 3 different mushrooms, each with their own style. By the end of this video, you'll have 3 caps and 3 different mushroom bases to mix and match for your fantasy builds so that you can create your own perfect fantasy mushroom land. I thought a time lapse would be best to show you how I'm building the mushroom, so we're going to get started with that. For this first one, I went with a white base and an orange top. I just started with the basic blocks because I feel it's easier for me to come back and add the details later and get the shape figured out first. The base of this one is round but stretches up a bit at the top. I always like to think of this as a desk lamp base, but that's not really helpful because there are so many different types of lamps. Anyway, for the top, I went again for a round shape, but I wanted the top to be lopsided and droopy. I could have maybe stretched this a little bit more and made it a little bit more droopy, so when I add this into my own build, I think that's what I'll do. I would say this is a bit of a classic mushroom design. You might be able to imagine some white polka dots on the top, which you could add to your own build, but this style is just so cute, so I had to make sure I included it. After I got the shape, I added in different shades of orange and a little bit of red to keep things interesting. I imagined the sun shining on the mushroom and chose a part to be bright and a part to be shaded, and I used the corresponding bright oranges and darker reds to indicate that. I also felt like the top needed some slabs to help things flow together. Sometimes the block difference is just a little too extreme for natural builds. I wanted a little bit more of a pop of color, so I added in some green with the moss at the base. Mushrooms often have interesting shapes underneath the cap, so I used some magma blocks because I thought it would be fun and then it would kind of add some light and it would be cool and very fantasy-esque. I also wanted to make a mini version for each mushroom. If you're populating your world with mushrooms, fantasy or not, you're probably going to want a few different sizes. With these builds, I want to give you some ideas and inspiration for your own mushroom builds, so feel free to mix and match the styles based on what you want. The third mushroom is my favorite, so make sure you stick around for that. I added a little bit of surrounding decoration to finish this set off, and then we can move on to the next one. For this second mushroom, we are using more natural colors. I wanted to use both the bright and neutral palettes in these builds. I don't know which style you prefer building with. I have been working on expanding my go-to block palettes for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's been great, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. The second mushroom has a bunch of little stems spreading out from the base, and then it's topped with brown blocks that don't necessarily curve up, but they do have a flat top and a narrow base. This one could easily be made much bigger too if you just add a bit more width to the stalks. I liked the mushrooms, but I thought they still needed a little something more, so I added in hanging roots. I'm not sure how much sense it makes, but we are building fantasy mushrooms, so it's okay. I like this one because it's interesting and it would fit well into a fantasy world, but it still feels grounded in real life. It's just a bit different than what you normally see in your standard fantasy setting. Again, we're building a smaller variation. Doing a different size really helps solidify the style and the shapes you're using. So once you've built 2 different sizes, you're pretty much an expert, says Jade the Willow. But anyway, adding the details to the base was a fun exercise for me because it helped me imagine what type of environment this mushroom would be at home in and what colors I would pair it with, and it helped me get a little creative. So when I add these, or when you add these into your own builds, you can think about what other things would be in the surrounding areas. This third and last mushroom is my favorite. Maybe it's because blue is my favorite color, but I'd love to hear which mushroom you like best in the comments. We start with a twisting tall base. I thought the jungle wood, soft orangey pink color worked well with the cyan. Our top for this mushroom is, again, another very classic fantasy shape, like on the tops of towers. The roofs of towers, that's what I meant. And then it also ends with a cute little curve. The use of terracotta in this was a little bit difficult for me because it's just so strange. But like I said, I'm trying to expand my block palettes, and I thought it was the best way to get from the prismarine to the white. It's a little funky, but it works, especially when you're looking at the build as a whole from afar and you're not thinking too much about the actual makeup of the blocks. I added some skulk vein at the base of the cap where it meets the stem, and it really helped tie things together. Never underestimate a few well-placed blocks in adding a nice finishing touch. Doing the mini version was fun, though now I really want to make giant mushrooms of each kind. I think that would be fun. But I do have a plan for these at some point in the future. You'll just have to keep your eyes out, so maybe there will be some giant mushrooms included there. That gives you 3 mushroom cap styles. We've got a round one, a sort of curvy up flat one, and a very tall pointed curved one. And then 3 different bases, one that's kind of squat, one that's got lots of different pieces going in all different directions, and a nice twisty spiral shape. So you can mix and match these however you want. You can change up the scale, you can change up the colors. You've got a lot of different directions to go just using these 6 basic parts. And if you're looking for other fun fantasy plants, I did an underwater landscape build that I think was pretty cool. Viewers, anyway. But it's got some fun ideas. You can use it for underwater or above water. If you're doing fantasy, you can kind of do anything. Anyway, it's part of a series, and I want to pick it up again this summer. So I'll link that in one of the corners, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!